caterpillar can look like a snake. The Judas evolved to mimic its predator. Us.
Mimic, 20 things they never wanted you to know. On the surface, it was just another sci-fi horror. Genetic experiments, creeping insects, and a city in peril. But Mimic was a struggle off-screen. Directors argued over atmosphere, studios demanded scares, and Mira Sorvino fought for nuance. The result? Chaos, compromise, and unforgettable terror. In today's video, we'll uncover the 20 shocking secrets behind Mimic. Shocking Secret 1. The studio war that broke Guillermo del Toro. Guillermo del Toro entered Mimic dreaming of creating an intelligent, atmospheric horror film. A story about evolution, identity, and what humanity becomes when it plays God. But Miramax had other plans. Executives demanded a faster pace, bigger scares, and more commercial appeal. Del Toro fought for creative control and lost. The studio took the film away during editing, hiring others to recut it behind his back. He described the experience as the worst time of my life and said he nearly quit filmmaking entirely. Actor Mira Sorvino stood by him, threatening to walk if he wasn't given partial control back. Their combined resistance saved parts of his vision, but not all. What remained was a haunting compromise between art and commerce, beautiful and broken. The real horror of Mimic wasn't the monsters. It was Hollywood itself. Shocking Secret 2. The nightmare of the subway tunnels. Most of Mimic was filmed deep inside massive, artificially flooded tunnel sets. The humidity, heat, and limited ventilation made conditions unbearable. Crew members called it a daily descent into hell. Mira Sorvino and Jeremy Northam performed long sequences waist-deep in water, filled with debris, fake sewage, and artificial insects. Several got infections, and one crew member fainted during a take due to lack of oxygen. Del Toro insisted on practical effects and real water for authenticity, something the studio hated because it slowed production. The tension between artistic realism and studio efficiency played out in those tunnels every day. Despite the misery, the resulting atmosphere felt genuinely claustrophobic, as if the environment itself were alive. Sometimes, the darkness on screen is nothing compared to the one behind it. Shocking Secret 3. The lost director's cut that changed everything. Few people know that Guillermo del Toro's original cut of Mimic was completely different. His version emphasized mood, allegory, and the sadness of human tampering with nature, more tragic than terrifying. Miramax rejected it, demanding more jump scares and gore. When del Toro's cut leaked years later in limited circles, fans were stunned by how coherent it felt compared to the theatrical release. In 2011, del Toro was finally allowed to reconstruct his vision into an official director's cut, removing many of the studio's forced edits. It became a cult favorite, proving his instincts were right all along. What once felt like a failed monster flick became a misunderstood masterpiece, a rare redemption story for a film once buried by its own creators. The movie that once crawled in the dark finally found the light it deserved. Shocking Secret 4. Mira Sorvino's Silent Rebellion. When studio executives began overriding del Toro's creative decisions, lead actress Mira Sorvino secretly pushed back. She began adjusting her performances on set, toning down moments that producers wanted exaggerated, subtly preserving del Toro's intended emotional tone. Insiders revealed she even refused to reshoot certain scenes unless del Toro approved the changes. Her quiet defiance became crucial in keeping the director's vision alive amid chaos. Sorvino later said she owed it to Guillermo to fight for the version of Mimic that mattered. This quiet rebellion didn't go unnoticed. Harvey Weinstein reportedly threatened to replace her. She stayed anyway, calling his bluff. Years later, del Toro publicly thanked her for her loyalty, calling her the only reason some soul remained in the film. Sometimes, the bravest performances happen when the cameras stop rolling. Shocking Secret 5. the monster design that terrified the crew. The film's insect-human hybrids were groundbreaking for their time, combining puppetry, animatronics, and digital effects. But the realism came at a cost. Many on set found them too disturbing to look at. The main Judas breed creature stood nearly 8 feet tall, with intricate moving parts and realistic skin textures. It took over 6 operators to control, each hidden beneath the set. Del Toro wanted the creatures to appear beautiful in their own wrongness, merging human anatomy with nature's horror. During night shoots, the animatronics' movements startled even the actors, causing genuine reactions of fear on film. One crew member swore it moved on its own after power was cut, earning the prop the nickname the Ghost Bug. The monsters didn't just haunt the tunnels, they haunted everyone who built them. Shocking Secret 6. Harvey Weinstein's ruthless interference. Guillermo del Toro's battle with Harvey Weinstein became one of Hollywood's most infamous clashes. Weinstein, then at the height of his power, despised del Toro's slow-burn style and demanded a more conventional monster movie. He ordered extensive reshoots, even threatening to fire del Toro multiple times. Weinstein reportedly barred him from the editing room and replaced sequences with generic jump scares. Mira Sorvino, who was dating Quentin Tarantino at the time, personally intervened, pleading with Weinstein to back off. Her support helped del Toro stay attached long enough to finish the film, but the psychological toll was immense. Del Toro later called Weinstein the worst person I've ever met in the film industry. Mimic became both a creative heartbreak and a personal battle scar for its director. The true villain of Mimic didn't crawl. It wore a producer's suit. Shocking Secret 7. The crew revolt that nearly stopped production. Halfway through filming, tensions between the exhausted crew and the studio boiled over. Long hours, unsafe working conditions, and constant reshoots led several key members of the effects and lighting teams to threaten a walkout. According to set reports, a night shoot ran for 23 consecutive hours with no breaks. Del Toro tried to defend his team, but executives pushed harder to meet deadlines. The crew eventually organized an informal protest, refusing to continue until rest periods were enforced. Production halted for 2 days, costing thousands per hour. Miramax quietly settled the dispute by promising overtime pay, but morale never recovered. Some members finished the movie purely out of loyalty to Del Toro, not the studio. Sometimes, the loudest protests are made in silence, not slogans. Shocking Secret 8. The deleted opening sequence. Nobody's seen. Originally, Mimic began with a haunting prologue that set the tone for the entire story. The scene followed an infected child wandering through a desolate subway before revealing the mutated insects crawling beneath the streets. Shot in a sickly green hue, it mirrored Del Toro's later visual trademarks, seen in The Devil's Backbone and Pan's Labyrinth. However, Miramax executives cut it for being too art house and not attention-grabbing enough. Del Toro fought to keep it, but lost. Only stills and rough footage survive, buried in the film's archives. Fans speculate that this missing sequence would have redefined Mimic's emotional context, transforming it from a creature feature into a tragic parable about human hubris. The film's first horror wasn't cut from the real, it was cut from its soul. Shocking Secret 9. The real insects that crawled the set. To heighten realism, Del Toro used thousands of real cockroaches and beetles alongside animatronics. The insect wranglers, yes, that was a real job, were tasked with keeping them alive, contained, and active for the camera. Despite precautions, dozens escaped daily, infesting the Toronto studio where filming took place. Crew members began finding them in equipment, clothing, and even catering. Some actors refused to enter certain sets after hours, fearing surprise guests. The Wranglers joked that the insects had unionized. Del Toro, however, saw it as poetic justice, saying, "The movie became what it was about. humanity overrun by nature. When filming wrapped, fumigation lasted weeks. But rumors say some of the bugs were never found. In the end, nature didn't need special effects. It got the last laugh. Shocking Secret 10. The cinematographer who refused to quit, cinematographer Dan Laustsen, who would later collaborate with Del Toro on The Shape of Water and Nightmare Alley, was nearly fired during production. Miramax executives felt his lighting style was too shadowy and too European. Laustsen refused to compromise, standing by Del Toro's Gothic vision. When Weinstein demanded brighter, more commercial visuals, Laustsen deliberately underlit scenes, using silhouettes and reflection to hide the studio's added edits. His persistence preserved the film's eerie, dreamlike tone and helped cement his long-term partnership with Del Toro. To this day, Laustsen calls Mimic the most painful but necessary experience of his career, a trial by fire that shaped the visual language of their future masterpieces. When shadows become rebellion, the camera becomes a weapon of truth. Shocking Secret 11. Mira Sorvino's secret battle behind the scenes. While Mira Sorvino delivered one of her most haunting performances, few knew the turmoil she endured behind the camera. As the film's lead, she was constantly caught between her loyalty to Guillermo del Toro and the studio's conflicting demands. Sorvino reportedly clashed with Miramax executives over script rewrites that sexualized her character, insisting the story remain grounded in science and fear, not exploitation. Her defiance didn't sit well with producer Harvey Weinstein, who allegedly tried to have her replaced. Del Toro threatened to walk if she was removed. Their solidarity saved both their careers, but it marked Sorvino's quiet blacklisting in Hollywood for years after. Her courage would only be recognized decades later when she spoke publicly about the abuse of power that defined that era. In a world full of monsters, the bravest act was simply standing her ground. Shocking Secret 12. The soundtrack that wasn't supposed to exist. Composer Marco Beltrami's moody score became a defining element of Mimic's identity, but it almost never happened. The studio initially rejected his early demos for being too operatic. They wanted generic horror tones, not the sweeping orchestral dread Beltrami envisioned. Del Toro secretly convinced Beltrami to continue composing behind the studio's back, using rough cuts of the film to sync his music. When executives finally heard the completed score, even they couldn't deny its power. The haunting choral pieces and tense percussion became the film's emotional heartbeat. Ironically, the very thing they tried to suppress turned Mimic from a forgettable monster flick into a uniquely atmospheric experience. Sometimes the music they silence becomes the soul that survives. Shocking Secret 13. The ending that wasn't in the script. The film's ending, the explosion beneath the city and the survival of Sorvino's character, wasn't the original conclusion. Del Toro's first version ended tragically, with the characters realizing that humanity had already lost control over evolution. The studio, fearing test audience backlash, demanded a hopeful rewrite. The result was the fiery finale audiences know today, but Del Toro hated it, calling it emotionally false. He later revealed that he shot the final explosion with tears in his eyes, mourning the story's original intent. Only fragments of that darker ending remain in early drafts and deleted dialogue. Fans still debate whether Mimic would have become a masterpiece had Del Toro been allowed to finish it his way. When endings are rewritten by fear, even survival feels like defeat. Shocking Secret 14. The hidden symbolism of the insects. Del Toro never intended the giant insects to be mere monsters. They symbolized humanity's arrogance, our urge to dominate nature until nature strikes back. The Judas breed was meant to mirror the biblical theme of betrayal, scientists playing God, only to be betrayed by their own creation. Each transformation sequence reflected a twisted kind of beauty, evolution as vengeance. Yet this symbolism was lost when the studio cut key dialogue and scenes explaining the science. What remained was spectacle without context. Still, viewers who look closely can spot Del Toro's philosophical fingerprints in every shadow and wing flutter. The horror wasn't the bugs themselves, it was the reflection of what we had become. When man becomes God, his creations always demand worship, or revenge. Shocking secret. 15. The version Del Toro finally reclaimed. Years later, Guillermo del Toro was allowed to release Mimic, the director's cut, restoring scenes long buried by studio interference. It wasn't a complete redemption, but it was closure. The new version restored character moments, slow-building dread, and emotional nuance that the original release stripped away. Del Toro described it as a healing process, like burying a ghost properly. Critics revisited the film and discovered a depth once hidden beneath chaos. Though it never achieved blockbuster fame, the director's cut became a cult favorite, showing how vision, no matter how suppressed, can still find light years later. Sometimes art must survive its own resurrection to be truly seen. Shocking secret. 16. The crew's revolt in the subway tunnels. The subway tunnels of Mimic became a real-life nightmare. Guillermo del Toro wanted damp, claustrophobic realism, so the crew built massive underground sets filled with ankle-deep water, fog machines, and live insects. The humidity was so suffocating that lights exploded from condensation, crew members fainted, and even cameras malfunctioned from the constant moisture. At one point, an electrical fire nearly broke out, forcing everyone to evacuate. Tensions grew so high that several crew members reportedly threatened to quit, claiming the conditions were unsafe and inhuman. But Del Toro refused to compromise, insisting that the fear and discomfort would translate onto film. And it did. The atmosphere of sweat, darkness, and decay wasn't an illusion. It was the lived experience of everyone trapped underground. What audiences saw on screen wasn't acting. It was survival disguised as cinema. Sometimes the truest horror isn't scripted. It's endured. Shocking secret. 17. The missing scene that explained everything. In Del Toro's original script, there was a powerful introspective scene where Mira Sorvino's character reflects on mankind's arrogance in trying to play God. She compares the creation of the Judas breed to humanity's own extinction. A haunting moment that elevated Mimic from creature feature to moral allegory. But Miramax executives decided it was too slow and cut it just before release. That single choice erased the film's emotional anchor, leaving audiences confused about its deeper meaning. Years later, fans discovered the lost script pages online, and they revealed what Mimic could have been: a meditation on evolution, science, and guilt. Del Toro himself lamented the loss, calling it one of his greatest frustrations as a filmmaker. Without it, the movie lost its soul. What was meant to be tragedy became mere spectacle. When profit edits out philosophy, meaning dies in silence. Shocking secret. 18. The actors who couldn't handle the fear. Few horror sets have ever been as authentically terrifying as Mimic. The creature effects were so disturbingly real that actors often broke character mid-scene. Jeremy Northam refused to stay in the insect chamber after an animatronic unexpectedly lunged toward him. Mira Sorvino's screams during the subway sequence weren't staged. They were genuine reactions to malfunctioning props that moved unpredictably. Even Del Toro confessed that some of the insect costumes disturbed him, their human-like features blurring the line between man and mutation. The claustrophobic sets, low lighting, and mechanical whirring of the creatures made every take feel like an encounter with something truly alive. The fear on screen didn't need direction. It existed naturally. To survive the shoot, actors learned to act through panic. In a film about human-made monsters, it was the filmmaking process itself that became monstrous. When fiction feels too real, fear stops pretending. Shocking secret. 19. The lawsuit that silenced promotion. Mimic was meant to launch Guillermo del Toro's Hollywood career, But behind the scenes, it became a legal minefield. Disputes erupted between Miramax, Dimension Films, and several uncredited artists who claimed their work was used without payment. Crew members sued for unpaid overtime, while others accused producers of violating safety regulations during the tunnel shoots. The backlash grew so intense that Miramax quietly scaled back the movie's promotion, fearing negative press. Del Toro, still under contract, was banned from discussing the situation publicly, leaving fans wondering why the film vanished so quickly after release. Years later, internal memos leaked online, exposing how lawsuits and corporate infighting buried a promising sci-fi horror beneath red tape. Mimic didn't fail because of the audience. It was sabotaged by the system designed to sell it. When art meets greed, truth becomes the first casualty. Shocking secret. 20. The legacy they couldn't erase. Despite the chaos, Mimic became a seed of something greater. Though Miramax tried to bury it, fans and critics eventually rediscovered the film, recognizing it as Guillermo del Toro's first real exploration of themes that would later define his career: sympathy for monsters, beauty in decay, and humanity's arrogance in creation. The director's cut, released years later, restored missing scenes and redeemed much of the lost vision. What once was a studio failure evolved into a cult classic that continues to inspire filmmakers worldwide. For Del Toro, Mimic was both a wound and a lesson, a painful reminder that art must sometimes survive sabotage to prove its worth. The movie's insects may have mimicked humanity, but its story mirrored survival itself. When vision endures corruption, it becomes immortal. Mimic wasn't just a creature feature horror. It was a lab, a clash of vision, mutation, and ambition that left its mark on everyone involved. Beneath the insect carnage and city terror was a story about ethics, evolution, and what happens when science plays God. Maybe that's why it endures, because it reminds us that curiosity without caution can create its own monsters. If this uncovered a truth about Mimic you never knew, drop your favorite secret in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more revelations from the films that blurred horror and science. Remember, nature fights back.